Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. This time it is the 1/48 scale de Havilland Tiger Moth from Airfix. So join me as I take a look and get inside the box. So as usual, on the front we've got this artwork of the Tiger Moth in flight. They've gone for the red and white squares on this one to make it stand out a little bit from the other scheme that is inside the box. We have an item code of A04104. On the thin edge then, we've got some safety information, as is quite typical. A Cartograph logo, so decals by Cartograph. And also we've got our tooling and design dates. It is from 2019, and this was made in India. On the other edge then, so we've got some information about the actual Tiger Moth. And it tells us that the length is 152 millimeters, 184 millimeters in width, and 59 parts are inside the kit. So not as many parts as other 148 kits, but then again, it's not a overly part heavy plane, I don't think. Two paint schemes. The first one here is the red and white one, as on the front of the box, which is finished in the colors of the RAF Central Flying School. But it is part of the Shuttleworth collection, so it's a historic aircraft, and this dates from 2018. We also have another one from 2018 at Headcorn Aerodrome in Kent. Paint colour callouts then, all in the Humbrol range. However, you can substitute them with your own brand of choice if you want to do so. We have one flying hour, that's a token, cut it out and keep it. If you're in the club, use it to get more kits. If you're not in the club, please send them to Models for Heroes, where you can help them with their charitable work. Down here, we've got a skill level of 2, which tells us that this should be not the easiest kit in the world, but relatively okay to complete. The thin edges just features the same information that was on the front of the box. So let's take a look inside. And we've got our plastic parts. So being from 2019, we haven't got the dark grey that we have now. We've got the lighter grey that was used back then. So I'll have a look at the instructions. Normal format from Airfix, information about the real aircraft with some specifications. We've got some thanks down here. Aero Legends, Headcorn, John Adams and the RAF Museum helped them with the project of creating this Tiger Moth. Turn over the page. Same information that we normally see from Airfix with a key to the different symbols we are going to encounter. And then we come down to our slightly colorized instructions, which are laid out methodically and to the normal CAD rendered drawings that we have from Airfix today. Start off by assembling and painting our cockpit internal areas. Parts of, I think this is part of the engine exhaust system here. Internal control panels, and there are transfers to go on that. Turn over the page. If you want to have the little doors that they climb in through to sit in their chairs, then you need to cut away this part of plastic from the fuselage half, and then there will be extra parts, I presume, to glue in at step 33. Paint the internal walls of the cockpit with a cockpit green, and if you want to use a aircraft stand, which you can buy separately, then you have to drill out the holes here. Join the fuselage halves together. Add various parts on the front of the aircraft for the engine. And moving on, we add our cowling, the front of the engine and panels. But you do have the option to have one of the panels open so that you can see the engine detail which has been supplied as part of the kit, which is always nice. It's always a nice addition to have that extra value to a model. So now here, and I've not seen this before. I did know about it kind of before I came into this kit, but I've not seen where they've molded a jig which you use to sand away part of the fuselage. The reason for this is because there are two different kinds of tailplane, and the particular tailplane that the version in this kit depicts requires this section here to be flat. So to do this, you use this jig to sand that area away so you get the right fit. Very clever indeed. And then moving on from that, we add the tailplane and the support struts. And then we add the lower wing, some more support struts, and the upper wing gets its support struts as well, which then gets glued onto the aircraft. Then we do some smaller details, but it does say here that if you're doing scheme A, make sure you glue in these details afterwards because they'll go over the top and you'll struggle to put your transfers around them. Landing gear gets glued on with the wheels following, and then we've got our different options for the propeller. Designed to freely rotate, so if you glue your pin through into there and are careful, then you should have a rotating propeller, but there are different choices depending on which variant you're doing. Add the pads that go in front of the cockpit. I guess that's for a bit of safety. The 2 windscreens, and then at step 33 we have our optional doors. Naturally, if you didn't want your doors open, you just skip that step. You add your engine cowling in the open position here if you want it. And then for the experienced modeler, which is not me, because I hate rigging, and you're probably wondering why did I get an aircraft which has a lot of rigging if I hate doing it. But we'll cover that in a minute. But anyway, 35 onwards shows you where the rigging goes. So under the landing gear, in between the the main spars, the tail control surfaces, what else have we got? Oh, there's more, keeps going. Wing supports and the sort of stays, the bracing struts that go in there. I think it looks like they have molded in on the bottom of the wings and the top of the wings locations for them to go, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, rigging's not my thing. I have done it on occasion, but not a fan. So painting instructions are in full colour, which we love to see because it just makes it so much easier to understand what you're doing. This is the red and white one, which is probably the one I'd be tempted to do. So it's an overall silver. You need to paint the top of the fuselage here with red, but it looks like everything else is a transfer. You will end up painting the internal cockpit area in a cockpit green, the propeller as appropriate, and the tyres as well need to be painted in black, but not overly complicated to do, I don't think. Let's then have a look at the other one, and if you're not a fan of painting, this might be the better scheme to do because it's just silver. It's just silver all over, and then the yellow stripes look like they're transfers, and then some smaller parts picked out in different colours, such as your wheels and your propeller. So this would be the simpler option. Just get a rattle can. I would just rattle can the whole thing and call it a day. You throw your transfers on and you are done. So instructions, fairly decent. Let's look at the decals. And that's quite a big sheet. Quite a big sheet. But then you do have 2 different paint schemes in here. So these are made by Cartograph in Italy. And they look absolutely fantastic. I could imagine in older times that these would be difficult to reproduce. But the registration, which is where the paint colours or the ink colours go down, is spot on. So the red dots are absolutely central in their roundels. If you remember, and you've been modelling for a while, and other manufacturers still do it today, the roundels will have separate red dots because they can't guarantee that they'll get them in the middle. And I have had kits where they've tried and they've been off wonky. So yeah. This is really nice to see. Even the text, the small text there, do not handle here, down here. That's legible as well. That is some very nice looking transfers. I have never had an issue putting a Cartograph decal onto a kit, and they settle down really nicely into the surface details as well. So yeah, these are absolutely fantastic. And I'll say it again, sometimes the transfers cost as much as the plastic you get in the kit. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for quality transfers in Airfix kits these days. So put them to one side. And we are now met with our plastic parts. So in this little bag, we've got our clear parts. And if I remember correctly, it should just be canopy or windscreens. And yep, that's it. That's all we've got in here. We've got 2 little windscreens. Crystal clear. Ever so slightly on this one. I don't think it would pick it up. But there is a slight... it's not like a texture. I think it's just the way it is. When the plastic goes in, it's left it's like a ripple, a bit of a ripple on the plastic, but it's not noticeable, not really. Very small. I imagine that there's probably someone out there who's created masks for this part, but I think it would be quite easy to either paint them with a brush, because there's like nothing to them, or use a very sharp blade to put some masking tape down on that. But yeah, very nice. No flash that I can see. So let's put them to one side. And then we've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 sprues in a light bluey grey colour plastic. And as mentioned, this is the older plastic. So this is an older model. Airfix has now switched to a darker grey. But let's have a look at this one first. So looking at the plastic then, a little bit flexible, generally okay. A touch greasy, but not too bad. Probably worth a wash. Any grease on there will be like a mould release to help it not stick to the mould as it comes out. So what have we got on this one? It's probably a little bit hard to see, but there is a little bit of dirt in the plastic. It's not like on the surface, it's actually in the plastic. So I guess when the tooling's come out of the mould, a little bit of dirt has stuck. There's a bit there as well. It's stuck inside of the mould due to it being statically charged, negatively charged or whatever, and it's now embedded itself in the plastic. But once you've painted over that, you won't notice it. So we have our fuselage with raised and recessed details as appropriate. We've got some lovely little details there on the engine component there. We've got our tail surfaces, and there is a texture slightly for the fabric that goes over the top of it. That will come out on the camera there, hopefully. And engine cowling components, the other tail surface. So this is the one I need for my kit because of the representation that it has. And flipping over, you can see we've got some internal ribs and details there inside the cockpit, which is quite nice to see. And then we have our main wings, and it's the same kind of deal. A little bit of dirt there. That should show up on the camera. You can see that as a black dot there, which is part of the moulding, which again is probably down to static drawing dirt out of the air and resulting in it sticking inside the plastic. But again, you shouldn't be able to notice it. The mould quality is quite good. There is no flash that I can see, and I haven't noticed any short shots, which is good. Before we move on to the final sprue, I just wanted to check on here, because this is these are your wing components. The ejector pin marks are on the not visible areas of the kit. So there's no ejector pin marks on the actual wing surfaces. They are on the inside here, or they've been used on the sprue gates. So that's quite clever. And then we have the rest of the details. Fuel tank, the struts for the wings, another propeller there. So the difference between the propellers, it looks like one has a fully rounded tip and the other one has a flattened tip. So that's it, really. Coming on down, wheels. Our landing gear wheels have flattened edges for displaying this on the ground. So it looks like the weight of the aircraft is going through the tyres. However, if you did want to display this in a flying pose, they would even out and they would be more circular. And that hasn't been included in the kit, that option. So you'd always have that slightly deflated, depressed side of the wheel. So if you did want to have this in a flying pose, maybe you'd need to find some aftermarkets if you really cared about that, that is. If you don't care, then that's fine. Additionally, there's no pilots. No pilots are included in this kit. So if you did want to have it flying, then you'd need to find some pilots for it. Additionally, here's your jig. This is the jig for putting on the tail and then sanding in the area here to bring that tail surface down so you can glue in the correct part. Quite clever. And then finally, we move on to the internal cockpit parts, and we have our control columns, the control panels, and the seats as well. All moulded to a very nice quality. I can't see any flash. There's no mould misalignment. It's quite a nice looking kit. Naturally, being 2019 vintage, it is good, but it doesn't quite have the finesse that you would expect from kits today. So if you had a 2023 tooling, for example, I mean, Airfix they work in advance. So what their capability was in 2019 is less than their capability now. And what their capability now is going to be less than what it is in 5 years' time. So, yeah, it's a nice looking kit. Don't get me wrong. However, it does show how far I think Airfix have come in the last 5 years or so. Bearing in mind, you've got stuff like the ME410 that came out, the Sea King, the new massive Spitfire. Yeah, this should build up into a nice kit, I think. A very nice representation. So let's go back, round it all off. We had 3 sprues of some crisply molded parts that I can't see any real issues with. A little bit dirty, but that's in the plastic. And once you've washed and primed this plane, you shouldn't have any issues with that. Tiny little canopy parts, which are fine. Beautiful transfers from Cartograph. These look so nice. And yeah, this is the paint scheme you want to do, isn't it? Because it's just, they've done this with transfers, so it should make it so much easier just to do. And then you've got to do that little bit of extra red. However, naturally, if you want to do the simpler one, this should be the easier scheme for you. And then we had our instructions, which are the normal format from Airfix, printed in colour. These parts are printed in different shades, I'd say, and then your painting instructions are in full colour. And they've gone above and beyond and told you where you need to put your rig in, which is really nice too. So all of that came contained within a beautifully illustrated box, which is part of the reason why I got this one. However, I think we mentioned earlier that I hate aircraft with rigging. I hate it. I hate doing biplanes. And you're probably wondering, Matt, why did you get this one? Well, there was a good reason for it. Airfix had a deal on their website a little while ago, which was if you spend 30 quid, you'll get this one for free. Bearing in mind, on the Airfix website, the price of this kit was £23.99. You're almost getting, the value back instantly. It's, let's call it £24. For the sake of spending £6, you're getting the value back, if that makes sense. Plus, also, if you buy it from the Airfix website and you're a member of the club, you get your hobby rewards and discount anyway. So you're probably wondering, what did I get to go with this? And if you've seen my Dogfight doubles set on the vintage biplanes, you'll know, but I'll go through it again. I bought this just to push the price up. Again, it's biplanes with rigging. Why have I bought biplanes? Don't know. It just was the only real thing that sort of piqued my interest in. I did build the Fokker DR1 many years ago, and I also got the Lockheed F80 Shooting Star. I had this as a child, never built it, don't know why, but I'd love to do that one. Again, all silver, quite a simple paint scheme. I also got a couple of cans of paint, primer, and an aluminium colour. So potentially I could do aluminium on this, but I don't know if it's just aluminium or was it silver? Was it 11? 11 silver. So I probably bought the wrong one, should have bought a silver, but I think I've got a silver in the box, in my paint box somewhere. So I got this one for free as part of a deal. Effectively, I did kind of pay for it, but it isn't a review sample and Airfix didn't send it to me out of their own whim. I did effectively buy this one. However, you would be looking at spending £23.99 for this on the Airfix website, which is in line with the smaller 1/48 scale model kits. This is a Series 4, which it says down here A04104, so 04. The first one is the series number. And I think that all Series 4 kits are £23.99. And as a sort of reference, this is also £23.99 at the time I'm making the video, because it's a Series 4 kit. This is the brand new Messerschmitt ME410 that they released in 2023. Naturally, as mentioned, I think this kind of kit has more finesse than this one. This one is, though, a bigger scale. And the Cartograph decals, you've got massive Cartograph decals in there. And as mentioned, you're paying for the quality of those. If you could do it cheaper, fair play. You're going to get a decent kit for it. And naturally, I got it for free as part of the deal. So I imagine they were just trying to clear out some stock. There is a more recent version of this kit, which at the time I'm making this video is a 2023 release as part of the range. However, it comes with 2 different paint schemes, which is for a Royal Naval College one in 1965 in silver with some red, and also one in a elementary reserve flying training school in Battle of Britain colours with yellow undersides, which is a very interesting paint scheme. And that one is, as mentioned, up for pre-order and retailing for the same price of £23.99. So depending on how this one goes, perhaps I'll look at getting the other one in the Battle of Britain colours. But yeah, that is pretty much my unboxing on this 148 scale de Havilland Tiger Moth. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my review and if my assessment of this kit was fair. As always, quick shout out to my channel members and patrons for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to join them and find out more about what becoming a patron or channel member means, check out the links in the description. There is also more information in the description about how you can support the channel in other ways, but the best way for free is to subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.